Hi, I'm Nick Rodriguez with the Squid Ink service team, and welcome to our third video in the series covering the Orion marking and coding software. Today we're going to be discussing the menu tabs and navigating those in the software itself. Welcome to the third video in our series covering the Orion coding and marking software. Today we're going to pick up kind of where we left off from the last video where we've already made our message. Today we're going to focus more on the menu tabs at the top of our screen here. We're going to kind of examine what we have there and the things that we can do with those tabs. So the first one that we're going to find here is just going to be this file here. We're going to go ahead and take a look at that. Now in a lot of these tabs, you're going to see some redundancy like we see here. We've got some options that we already have in our home tab, right? So you'll see some things that you can do multiple ways. First thing that you'll notice under File is New. We can select this to create a new message. When you see my new message pops up, I can go ahead and create a new one there if I want. That's one of the options there. I'm just going to X that out. We'll go back to our file. We got open as well, where we can open up any existing messages that we've created. And so far, we've only created the one message. This is an important menu here, the open message menu. If you have multiple print stations, you'll have them listed here. So if you have more than one, you'll see this here. And you always want to make sure you have your correct print station selected, so that you know what message pool you're able to grab from. So in this example, we've got one print station, one message. Otherwise, we would see a list of messages here as well. And then you get your print preview here. So open is kind of nice so you can see what you're looking at, making sure that the message you've selected is actually what you're trying to open up. So there's one way of doing that. We're going to hit OK. Go back to File. From here, we also have Open File. Now, this is if you want to open something that's stored not locally on the C drive underneath the Orion folder. This will be something that you can go ahead and search a folder on the network or elsewhere on your PC to pull up something, either a message that was created and dumped into a network location, or another file that you're trying to look at here. So we'll go ahead and close that. Save and save as, pretty self-explanatory. Save is going to currently save the message you have up under the same name. Save as will ask you to rename it. Right, so I want to make changes to my previous message. I like the template of that message, but I want to change a few things. That's when save as comes into play. So, for example, I can change this to, we'll just exit out the test, and now it's just Nick's message. I can go ahead and go save as, and save it as Nick's message. All right, so now we should have two messages saved under this print station. We can confirm that by going back up to File and go to Open. And now you can see both of my messages. I've got the one I just saved, Nick's message, and then Nick's test message here, the training message. So that is how that works. Cancel. I'm going back to our File tab here. We can. This next option here is to save selected elements. This is an element in your message itself as a bitmap. You can create an image off of something in your message, right? Right now, if we look at my message, you can see that I have my text field selected by the red and green boxes. So I can save that as a bitmap, and I'll just do title. Well, this will save it as. and it's going to go ahead and save that as a bitmap. So now this is my this will be an image, and I can go ahead and load that into another message. So let's test that out. We'll go to new. We'll just keep that name. Go to graphic, and I'm going to search. Here's my title, and there we go. So this is a text field that got turned into a graphic, and I can't change this now. So it's, you know, kind of you got to make sure you're going to want to save and keep what you're saving as a bitmap, but that's how that works. That's a feature there that you can use. So let's go ahead and go back. We'll move on. Obviously, close. That'll close the message that you currently have open. I could do that here as well. It's going to ask me if I want to save. I'll just hit no. Don't want to save that. So again, let's go ahead and open up our training message. There we go. And let's continue down. So we also have a means to transfer to our transfer the message that we currently have up to our printers. We've got two options. This will be something that I think we'll cover on a video by itself, but we can go ahead and just quickly take a look at it. If you're physically connected with an Ethernet port or via wireless connectivity, and you're connected to your controller, hitting send to printer will give you this menu here. And what the system does is it goes out and looks for any other printers that match that, and I can go ahead and select that to send this message to as well. So if I had other controllers registered under my printer connection status list here that were the same type, so Copilot Turbo Max, they would be listed here as well, and I could select either one of those to take its place. When you see this menu, anything on the left-hand side right here under Message Target Printers, that's where the current message will be sent to. So it's telling us right now that we're going to send the message that we have up directly to this, this serial number. I can hit OK, and this is kind of what you'll see in the process here. It's going to try to connect. We never connected with that controller up front, but since nothing has changed with their IP addresses and we're all DHCP, it went ahead and found it automatically for us. And so as you can see, when we do that transfer, it's going to transfer all the fonts that we're using as well as the information in the message, and you get yourself a snapshot of the successes or failures, if there are any, listed here, and then the percentage complete down at the bottom. So kind of a helpful tool to see how fast it can go to transfer messages. So that's if you're physically connected or using wireless. The other option here would be a USB transfer, and this is something that we will cover again in another video, but similar to what we just saw. So here you'll see that we do have another option labeled as generic printer versus the serial number of the unit. We will cover this later. So for now, we'll just kind of move on. Just know that it's the same idea. Anything on the left-hand side is what it's going to try to send that message to. So it'll send it to that serial number if we go ahead with it right now. So I'll just hit cancel here. And let's go back up to the top. Now, moving down the list, we have our option to print. Now, this is a way to print your label from like a desktop printer, so you can take a look at the way it's going to look like, and maybe for approval or whatever you need from quality or whatever. So one way to do this is you can just hit print and it'll print it the way it is. Otherwise, we can go down to print preview, and you'll see this. So it's letting you know that that's how it's going to look on a sheet of paper. Now, again, people use this as a way to approve labels for quality purposes. So if that's something that you guys need to do, this print and print preview is a good option for you. And I can change my layout as well. I can go to landscape, and if I need it to be bigger, I can go ahead and use this drop down box to increase, which is way too big, or decrease in half. Yeah, you can go incrementally up slightly by using the increase scale until I get it to a spot that I'm happy with. That may be a little too big, so for print, we can go ahead and go back down. Yeah, so now I've got my whole message on a sheet of paper. This can be printed off and get approved or for your records or what have you. And then yes, we can go over here, hit print, and then find your network printer that you can print the sheet off to. So go ahead and hit cancel, and we'll cancel out of this as well. So that's print and print preview. One other helpful thing here is help. Obviously by the name, we can find all the user guides for the Copilot systems should be loaded here. All right, I have your Orion user guide for the actual software, and if I select that, it's going to go ahead and pull up the Orion users guide, and I can go ahead and look at my manual, find out what I need help with, and go to that segment, and it'll it's a PDF version of the manual right there on the software. The same, we'll close that. The same can be said here with your actual Copilot system. So Max Users Guide, we can pull that up as well, since we are using the Mac system. So really helpful to have all those manuals loaded on there. If you have any questions or need a hand, that'd be a good spot to go to. Outside of help, we're going to go down to this corner here, and you've got a couple of options. We briefly kind of examined the Orion license activation. Again, this would be only needed if you have a Tier 2 or Tier 3 license, meaning that Tier 2 connecting to multiple printers, Tier 3 would be database or auto data server features. You would go ahead and put in your license number here, and then with automatic activation, you can go ahead and activate that license. With manual, we would have to send you an activation code that you would then go ahead and put in place. The difference between these two is automatic can be used if you are connected to the internet, and manual is if it's isolated and there is no internet connectivity. So, all right, so let's head back to File and go to our Options menu. This Options menu is its own little sub-menu here, so we'll go ahead and open that up. And we've got several tabs, if you look at the top here, that we can take a look at, and we'll look at all of them briefly. So the very first tab that you're going to see under System Options is going to be General, and this is where you can go ahead and set your default selections for your fonts for the piezo printer meaning anything in the Copilot family, as we're using piezo technology in those print engines. So I can go ahead and select the font type that I want to use and the height that it always defaults to. Right now it's set up to always default to Arial Regular with a height of 64. So if you know that you use a different font pretty regularly, all your labels are created with a specific font, and you want to use that moving forward instead of having to select it every time, you can go ahead and set this up, and then whenever you go ahead and right click on your message to create a text field, it's going to utilize that font and that height here. The same can be said for the barcode symbology. If you know you use a specific barcode symbology more than others, you can set that up here. Go ahead and take a look at which one that you want to use, set up your basic configurations, and this also includes your narrow bar and spread factor, stuff that we had discussed in our previous video when we talked about the barcode elements themselves. So this is a pretty handy, especially for those who are making a whole lot of messages, right? We've got a lot of messages to make. You know what fonts you're using, you know what barcodes you're using. Go ahead and set that up here. Okay, so let's take a look at the other feature in this menu, which would be down at the bottom left-hand corner, where we can actually go ahead and find our updates and export those updates to a USB disk. And so by updates, this means updates for these are software updates for your Copilot controllers and for the Orion software itself. So let's go ahead and examine what it looks like when we go ahead and check for updates. You'll see a big list of updates here of all the different software packages that come along with it. For the Copilot system, you'll see here we've got a Copilot update. Current version that we've got is 2259. We see we have an update available for that, 2260. When you have updates, you'll see that it'll be listed as waiting for download. Everything else it'll look for and see if that's up to date as well. For our system, we're using a Copilot Turbo, and so we're going to take a look at the Turbo. It looks like we're all up to date there, our ink system. So you'll see a lot of stuff here. If you have an update available, what it's going to want you to do is, do you want to download it now? We'll go ahead and hit yes. And you'll see it go through the process of downloading that specific update. So once we have this update downloaded, there's two different ways to force it onto your controller. One, we can send it through our configuration screen, which we briefly looked at in one of the previous videos, or you can go ahead and transfer this update to a USB stick, which then gets plugged into the controller itself, and you can start the updating process there. So looks like we're done here. We'll go ahead, okay. Now that I have that downloaded, I'll go to export updates to a USB disk, and what you'll see is it automatically goes ahead and checks all the updates. We don't need all of these, so we can go ahead and clear all. And the one that we just did would have been this 2260. I can select that and then hit OK. Now when you do that, it's going to go out there and look for a USB drive that's connected to your system, and you can go ahead and apply those updates once it's plugged into your controller. I think that'll be something that we can go step by step on in another video as well, as it's kind of important to follow the right steps while you're doing the update. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and hit cancel real quick here. So that's the general tab, right? Really important stuff is font size and type, barcode symbology, height, and updates, right? The next tab here in our options menu is the print station / message. So here you can really customize what you've got going on for your print station and how it looks. How it auto zooms to your substrate, which is basically the message behind, which right now we don't have one open, and some of the other prompts and stuff. The important part here is this right here, these print station / message storage location. For our training sequence here in these videos, we turned the default location, which is going to be on the C drive of your local PC. If it's set to default, it'll be under the Squid Ink folder, and you'll see a Orion folder in there, and that's where everything would normally save. But if you're in a situation where you want where multiple people need to be able to access the print stations and the messages, it might be a good idea to change from the default and go to an alternate location, which would be someplace on the network, someplace that they can access on the network. So you can go ahead and hit that button on the side there and find a location here that you would like to save that. So this is something that you'll want to know at the beginning of your installation or your application. You'll want to know that so that you can point Orion to the correct location from the start. So again, this is really only used for people that are wanting to put it on their network drive or not have the messages and print station information be saved on the local device, but rather on a network location or somewhere else. So that's fairly important for you guys to take a look at. The other part here is the print station / message export and import. This is how we go ahead and back up our print station. So if I were to go ahead and hit export, you'll see that I have my print station name here, which is right there as well. And what this is going to do, it's going to export all the configurations, the serial number information, and all the messages that are attached to this print station to a location of my determination. So I can go ahead and say OK, and we've got a desktop. I'm going to go ahead and just say make a new folder since I have the desktop highlighted, and it's going to be called Orion export. Right? I'm going to hit enter, and what you want to do is just highlight that folder and just select OK. And you'll see this. The selected print station messages have been exported successfully, and I can hit OK. So what this does is it backs up our Orion. It backs up the print station and all the messages that we created under that print station. This is important so that if something were to happen to your PC, or if something happened to your version of Orion, or you can't access it, at least you have a way to back up everything so you don't have to make things from scratch. And this will be found on the desktop itself. So I'll go ahead and hit close, and we'll just hit OK for right now. And let's take a look at where that is. Orion export right here. Just move that real quick, and if we double click on that, you'll see this is what you'll get. You'll get your messages, the messages that we've created so far, as well as the printer that we made those messages for. So very important stuff here. An excellent way to back up all your messages, especially if you have a lot. If you have quite a bit of messages, this is a good thing to do, and I would recommend doing that periodically, and maybe having it on a USB drive or saving it to a network location or something similar like that. So let's go back to File and Options, and back to Print Station / Message. So that's export. Import is the same way. We can go ahead and select the folder and hit OK, and what it'll do is it'll load it right on top of it. It won't look, it's going to just be the same thing that we have here, so I'm not going to go ahead and do that, but it is that simple. You just have to find the folder that they're saved under, highlight the name, and hit OK, and you'll see that that's what it's trying to import into your print station, or into your Orion, I should say. So very helpful stuff here. Let's go ahead and take a look at communication. For the most part, a lot of this stuff is going to stay the same. We don't rarely change any of this information here or down here as well. But this location here, this may help out, right? If you're having issues connecting to your printer for some reason, and you have a static IP that you're using, but it's not able to find or connect to it, this is a good way to go ahead and narrow Orion's search to locate your printer. And what you would do is just go ahead and hit scan IPs, and you would go ahead and either put your starting IP right here, your static IP that you want, or if you have a range of controllers, you put in your start and your end IP address here. So if you have a controller that's got static IP, but for some reason it's not connecting for whatever reason is going on, you go ahead and put in the static IP of that controller that you're trying to connect to here, hit OK, and then try that connection again, and most of the time that will fix your issue. So that's a way to kind of narrow Orion's field of search when it's looking for IP addresses to connect to. Most of the time, since we're using DHCP in our example, we don't need to worry about that. We can go ahead and just leave it the way it is. We'll leave it unchecked. But for anybody who's looking to control IPs, that's a good way to narrow the search and tell it to look at specific ones right then and there. Everything else here, to be honest, is not something that gets used very frequently. The only other thing I could see here is the you know, how to search for systems. You can either tell it to focus on the Wi-Fi adapter or strictly the Ethernet. If you leave it on auto, it'll check any available adapters out there to look for printers when you're trying to connect on the bottom here. So just a little bit of customization that you can use here. And speaking of customization, if we go to the Appearance tab, if you're really into it, you can go ahead and change the colors of things here and how your Orion software looks. You can customize it to your own specifications and whatnot here. With this, again, not something I see people use very often, but if you don't like it, you can go ahead and change it, customize it to your liking, and go from there. Tools, we have a couple of options here. You know, some things that we can use for when we're sending messages on here. This is mainly to help the Orion software. You kind of tell it what you want it to do after you send messages and whatnot. So, and then security mode, you can enable a password here for your stuff. I'm gonna hit OK, but we're not gonna use a password, so I'm just gonna hit cancel. But you can implement a password on Orion so that if, say, this is helpful if you have Orion on a tablet that is on the floor and communicating to multiple controllers. You don't want people going in there and changing things. Well, maybe the best option is to go ahead and put in a password here that they would need to actually access the Orion software and make any changes. So that is an option for higher levels of security. But that is the general system options overview. Really important is the updates, the fonts, backing up your print stations, and then narrowing your search. That's basically the three most important things that and the most common things that I use and that I experience in the field. So that is system options. Let's go ahead and move on to our other menu tabs. So let's go ahead and move away from File. We'll go to our next tab here, right next to File, labeled as Home. We'll go ahead and take a look at this. This is the Home tab. Everything that is on this toolbar at the top right here, that's what we can use on the Home tab. And again, you'll see a little bit of the repetitive options here. Same as File, our first three here are the same thing. So I can create a new message. I can open up an existing message, which I'll do. I'll go ahead and select our training message from the other day. So there's my training message. There's that. File open, similar to the same thing that we saw in File, and the same with File and Save As and Close. The one thing under the Home tab that I'll say, now that we're back under the Home tab, is message management, right? So message management allows you to take a look at your messages that you have saved under your print station, and we did kind of cover that. It's similar to Open, except from here I can go ahead and delete, email, copy, import, and export. These two selections here, import and export, are not the same as the ones where we saw under File and Options, where we can import and export the print station. This is specific to the one message or however many messages that you have selected here. So depending on how many messages I want, I can go ahead and import those to another location, either another print station or a thumb drive or something similar to that. I can also use this message management menu to delete messages or to export or to send to the printer. Again, there's a lot of different ways to do the same kind of thing, and from here we can send export to USB to transfer, or send to the printer via Ethernet. Email, if you have issues with the message and your PC is connected to the internet and is on the same PC that you have your email service set up to, you can select this option and it'll go ahead and try to email the message to the service department at Squid Ink. Okay, so that's what that'll do. And when you get that service department, we can go ahead and take a look at the message, examine it, and make sure that there isn't anything that is in the message that is causing issues. We use this almost weekly. People are sending us messages just to make sure everything is right, and to make sure that any issues that they're experiencing aren't related to that message, or if they want help cleaning up some stuff, to perhaps do something a little bit easier or better, we can go ahead and look at that. But it doesn't have to go to us. You can change the email location to whoever. It's just always going to populate service@squidink.com, I believe. That's that option there. One thing I'll show you here is if you have a message with multiple surfaces, like multiple printers, this preview here will allow you to select that. Now, all of our messages right now only have one surface and one printer, but if you had a front and back, you'd be able to toggle from the front side here down to the back side and see what that looks like as well. You only get one surface on your preview when you're looking at messages, okay? So just something to point out and something you're aware of. But that's message management, again, found under the Home tab. So we'll close that out. That's message management. We also have, under Home, Operator Mode. Operator Mode allows us to lock the access to the actual Copilot controller. This allows us to have full control on Orion software, and nothing basically can be done on the controller itself. It locks out the whole left-hand side of the screen, so you can't access the configurations or the messages. What you do see on your controller is just what you're currently printing. So if we go into Enter Operator Mode, this is the screen that you'll see. And since we're connected to this controller, this is the controller that we're connected to via Ethernet. The rest of those options were ones that we found over the network via wireless. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Connect to Operator Mode. And this is what you're seeing. So right here, we know that the current controller that I'm working with has this message loaded up. And these are our ink levels. We can adjust our start and stop printing. We get our status down here. So this is basically like you were looking at the home screen on your Copilot control. You get all that type of access here. And so that's the home screen. We can travel to the different messages that we have on here, and we can adjust the settings as well, as if this was the Copilot controller. So Operator Mode is kind of handy, especially if you want to control the settings from another location and not be on the floor. This can be done all from a location on a Nest or in an office somewhere, not on the production floor, but you can adjust them here. So a nice tool that helps keep the settings and configurations behind a gateway so that things don't change and your print remains consistent. So if that is a concern at your facility, Operator Mode is something that you can go ahead and use. Today we're going to go ahead and just log back out, go ahead and return to design mode. Now it allows us to jump back and forth easily. If we go back to Operator Mode, we can put in an unlock password here, and then you just have to reconfirm it. So if we put in something like 1, 2, 3, 4, which is, please don't use that, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we go OK. If we enter into Operator Mode now, which you'll see it go back to and connect, go, printer, there we go. And so now I'm entering here. Now to exit this, if I wanted to log out, it's going to ask me for the password here. So be sure you know what your password is, write it down, have it someplace secure, and try not to use something like 1, 2, 3, 4, because that's pretty common when we get these things back that it's set up to that. So go ahead and hit enter design mode, and you get back into Operator Mode, or the design mode of the Orion software. Now, the other features here that you'll see besides operator mode are going to be a database message server and auto data server. This is where we can go ahead and put in the specifics for the database server or the auto data server. These are things that we can cover in another video if we have time later on, but these are going to be very specific to the application. The user's guide for Orion has an excellent segment on how to set up a database connection here. So if you are interested in getting to that and are looking at getting that feature, go ahead and take a look at the user's guide. There's a segment in there for the database message server, and it also covers the auto data message server as well. Very informative. It'll help you create a template. So that's the home tab here. Not much else to cover on this segment here. We'll go ahead and move on to view next. All right, so let's move on to our next tab here, and we'll go to view. View is basically what you're going to see on your screen here. So let's just get our message in a way that we can go ahead and take a look at it. If you look below view here, you'll see a couple of things that are highlighted over here. If they're not highlighted as presented, they will not be on your screen. So this is what it would look like if you didn't have your Print Station Explorer, Message Explorer, or printer connections accessible on your screen. You would just see your message. I personally like to have all that stuff on my screen so I can see what I'm looking at and what I'm working with. If you just have one print station and you're not hopping around or anything like that, it's totally fine for you just to have your message up and to have that working out. So it's up to you and how you want to go ahead and view and use your Orion software. But let's go ahead and take a look at what all these mean, right? So Print Station Explorer, that's what you see here. It gives us our information of the print station itself. This is what we looked at when we first created the print station a few videos back. So if I had more than one print station here, they would all be listed below this right next to their own green box. So you'll see the print station name, the surface, the printer on that surface, and how many heads, right? So that is Print Station Explorer. Message Explorer, if we move on to that, when we have that selected, to access it, you'll go down to the bottom of your Print Station Explorer, and there's another set of tabs here. Message Explorer is actually going to break down your message currently up with all the different fields of data that you have in it, right? So you can see that it's got my surface information, my serial number similar to the print station, but then it has all the variable data listed and everything else that's inside of my message. And I can use this then here to select specific elements in my message if I wanted to edit that as well. So this is another way of going ahead and doing that. It helps you kind of identify, okay, what's this element? Oh, it's a counter. What is this element? That's a date and time. So just something to take a look at, something that you can use to further navigate your message a little bit. So that's Message Explorer. Printer connections, that will pop up this printer connection status. It'll give you your list of every printer that you've registered. Registered meaning something that you've gone out and connected to and or have put in the serial number for manually. So right now we only have the one controller, which matches up with our print station here. So that's the first three options here. The next three options, zoom in, zoom out, and zoom to, these are all pretty self-explanatory, but I can use these to zoom out, take a larger look at the substrate, a larger look at the message itself, or zoom in. And I can use this again to just go to a specific view that I would like with the zoom to. All right, so that's message. What I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom back out because I want to show you guys something. And that's this. Sometimes we get calls as to what is this? That's your photo eye. It's just a representation of where the leading edge of your print is, right? So that is pretty much always going to be there. It's going to help you understand where the leading side of your print is. You can either identify that by this photo icon or by the 0 on your message, right? So the 0 on the rule is the leading, and the higher number will be your trailing edge. We kind of covered that in another video as well. Using these checkboxes here, we can either eliminate our rulers or our grid lines, or we can have them back. Now, sometimes we also get calls on this. If we have our print head checked, that's a representation of where our print head is, right? And this will change depending on your configuration. It'll change either further away or closer, depending on how close your trigger to print head distance is set up on the controller. So just a visual representation of how things are going to look on, or where they're at in your setup. That's all that is. Most folks will just remove that, and that's as simple as just unchecking or checking that out of the way. If we move to the next, we have ourselves our units of measurements for our ruler. Well, right now we're set to inches, but we can bring that down to millimeters or centimeters. Typically, it's always going to be inches, but if you're moving, or if you want to be a little bit more perhaps precise, or you have different measurements, you're European, something like that, you can go ahead and change that here. Also, once you got that, we have our real date and time and the Windows code. You come back to Orion and you see something like this. Instead of the actual date and time, that is going to be under view, and it's going to tell you that somebody had accidentally selected Windows code. This is our format that we use to create that. So if you see that, you'll just have to make sure you have real date and time selected here, and that will show you the actual date and time as seen on your PC at the moment, or your tablet, or whatever it is that you're currently using to create that message. So that is view, just a way to help you understand what you're looking at. Not much else here. You can't get rid of this, so it's always going to be there. If you don't want it on your screen, just zoom in, go down. It's pretty simple. So let's take a look at our message tab now, which is again at the top here next to view. We'll go ahead and select message. Now message, you'll see, starts off very similar to home and file. Again, a little bit more of a redundancies here, just to help you access some commonly used commands or some features. So these ones we've already covered. The first one on this message menu that is different is going to be this ink usage. Now we can select this, and what it's going to do, it's going to tell you the amount of prints you can get, how many dots are in this selected message. So in the message that we created right behind it, you'll see that I'm currently using 400,000, almost 419,000 dots in that message itself. This lets you know how many nozzles there are in the print head, 10, 24, your DPI and whatnot. DPI matters for your ink usage, right? So you can compare all this information to your container size for your ink, and it's going to say you get roughly 23,000 prints with this message. This will be message dependent, so anytime you change the message behind it, this will change. Okay, and then you can also go ahead and put in your cost as well, and you can actually get a cost per print at the same time. So that'd be something that you can go ahead, well, how much am I buying the ink for? Go ahead and put that in, uncheck this, and then you'd be able to go ahead and get that information on the back side here, right? So these are all just rough estimates right now, but for this is going to say you get 25,000 prints. Yeah, 25,000 prints with this message. There's a little bit of a built-in calculation for purging and priming, but it's very conservative there. So again, keep in mind that every time you purge and you prime and fill, depending on what kind of system you're using, you are using ink. So it's going to be very, very close. So just keep that in mind. But that's how you go ahead and find out your prints per container and cost per print. So we'll go ahead and close that out. Anything I wanted to do here that I perhaps want to undo, I can go ahead and use that to undo my change. And my last change was moving my date element, so I'll go ahead and hit redo to move it back where I want it. There we go. So we've got that option there. We can cut, copy, and delete, same as any other Windows deal. Say I want to copy this message into another message or another message into a different print station. I can draw a window around all these, select them all, and I can either right click and go to copy or hit copy at the top. And it goes ahead and copies all that. So let's say, just for sake of trial and error, we'll show you new message. Now I can go ahead and go here and hit paste. There we go. And it basically copies everything the same way as it was on the other message and pastes it exactly the same way. So you'll see it here and there. Same stuff. So helpful tool if you are needing to. This is really used for if you're like transferring from one system to another, similar stuff, but you want to copy and paste from, say, I'm using a 500 Copilot 500 and I want to go to a 512i or something like that, a different printing system. I might want to copy and paste from this print station to a secondary print station. That's when you use that. The other option, of course, is just to make a few changes and then hit save as, like we had discussed earlier. So something there that you can use. We're going to go ahead and just delete this message. I don't want to save that. I have that selected. So that's copy, cut and copy. We also can align our elements if we need to. So we can go ahead and align to the left, center, all this stuff here. We can align some stuff. So how this works is, say I want all these three elements here to align to the left. I'll highlight them, go up to my align, and hit that. Well, jump to the end there. That's not what we wanted. Oh, I had my other one there. So hold on, let's do that again. We'll go back to undo. There we go. So correct use of undo. So I want to make sure I'm not selecting this part of it. I'm going to go ahead and just do this. There. Now I don't have my text element above. I've got my three elements that I want to align. I'll go ahead and go to align and align left. And so what that does is it aligns everything on the left-hand side as one field. So you can see this here, right? That's what that alignment is there for. Really good for multiple text fields, or if you want everything to have a similar starting point, it'll go ahead and do that. The reason why I jumped over to the corner here the first time I did it was because I had also selected this element when I was selecting these ones, and it's going to go to the furthest left unit that it can get. So hit my undo, and we're back to normal. That's alignment, and we can align different ways: top, bottom, left, right. This way, move to the furthest most, to the left or rightmost. So it's pretty good tools there. Moving on, we have lock position. In lock position, when you do select that, it makes it so that I can't grab that element, right? So anything else can be moved around from place to place, but this specific element is going to stay exactly there every time. And so that'll never change. And when you have lock element selected, you will see it kind of has a little gray feel to it. And you'll also see this lock symbol there. It just kind of lets you know that it is set up as a locked element, locking its position in place. So there's that. Other options that we have here are inverse and invert print. So if I select this here, that element, go back here. This is for the entire print message. Anything under this tab is going to affect the entire print message, not just the element that you have selected when it comes to this. How we know it's going to affect the entire message is because it's under the print head segment. And so if we hover, we get a little explanation of what each one of these things will do. Invert if you need to flip the whole print upside down. This is something that things like egg facilities do on their egg cartons. They'll make a print message here, and then they'll use this invert print, which will flip the whole message upside down. But it will still appear on the screen right side up, so you know what it looks like and how it is presented. So it does not actually show it inverted here, but it will print inverted there. Now, since we're on the subject, if I wanted to invert a particular element in my message and not everything else, I can just select that specific element. And now, since you see I have my red and green boxes around my text field, I go here, you'll see element right there. I can go ahead and inverse, which is what that would do for the whole message if I had it under inverse print under print head, or invert. Right? So just giving you a kind of a visual representation. We can do specific elements, either inversed or inverted, or using the message tab and going to the print head field, I can do the entire message inversed or the entire message inverted. So just another thing that you can put in your tool set when making your messages. We're going to go ahead and go over here. Database connection, again, only use when you're connecting to your database. I'll just go ahead and, if you don't have the license feature, it'll give you this little kickback. So what we'll do is we'll cover that database in a separate video, how to exactly set it up, build that template message and connect to it. We'll cover that then. Share counters. If you have share counters selected, it'll share counters between multiple print heads. That's what that's for. One print head, we don't really need to use share counters. But if you want this same counter to be printed on the opposite side or on another print head, perhaps printing on the other side of the box or just below this, you can go ahead and select share counter, and it will split this counter onto both of them so that you have one counter element being printed by both print heads. Count ink every print. This is for more this is for a more specific print count for your controller ink levels. You'll see on the screen of your controller is you'll have two bars or a bar for each print head, and this will count every print every time things change. So it counts all the variable data changes and everything like that, and subtracts that count from the total ink level. So that's what that's for. So it gives you a little bit more of a specific count, especially if you have a lot of variable data. That's what that's for. If you have mostly static, this isn't going to really help you, but if you have a lot of variable data, things that are changing from print to print, as opposed to having it mostly static, this will help you get a more accurate count on your controller ink level. Also, moving on, if we go to pre-build, pre-build should be checked whenever you can. This is basically, it helps eliminate, shorten up the time that the controller needs to build the message. Every time we send a trigger signal to the Copilot controllers, whether it's the turbo or the standard, that controller will have to build the message, which means it renders this message and gets it ready to print. Pre-build means I trigger, I print, and when it's doing that, it's also building the next message to print. Really good for static information and being into speeding that up. So most of the time, pre-build will be selected. Repeat mode. If you need to print this message repeatedly and not a one-to-one versus your trigger, you would go ahead and select this. So what this means right now, this is set up so that I get one trigger, one print. When I select repeat mode, we get to adjust that. So I can get one trigger and I can tell it that I want it to print either 0, meaning it will be indefinite, or see, as you can see on the field screen there, it tells you enter 0 to repeat forever. Or I can say with each trigger, I want a certain amount of prints to go along with this. Most web applications will use repeat mode, right? So if you're printing on some sort of a web, a film, a fabric, extrusion, or something like that, something that's continuous, the product really doesn't break, repeat mode is going to be used. It will not be something that you can change on the controller. So if you are going to want this thing to be a repeated message, you'll want to know that while you're making it and make sure you have this selected. So let's take a look at what this says here. Repeat length, right? So length is going from the start of your message here to the start of the next message. That's what this is. So right now my current message is only 15 inches long. It gives us a 0.003 break in between prints is what this is telling us. But I can elongate that as much as I want. Keep in mind, you cannot go below the substrate length here. So as you can see, I'm 15. I cannot go below 15. It won't let me go down. This is going to be your minimal amount that defaults to. So I can increase it, but I can't go down below that. So just keep that in mind. That's why you can't go shorter. It's from the start of the first print to the start of the next print. That's what the length is there for. And you can set it up as in inches or columns, or anything else, centimeters or millimeters. Most people are using inches. So that's just something to keep in mind there. Continuous line mode. Continuous line mode is something it's actually in the name. If you just want to print a continuous line, or if you have static data that does not have any variable data. So if your message you want it to repeat, but doesn't have any blue elements, it's all static data. Continuous line mode will mean you will print back to back to back to back to back. So it will be no spaces. It'll be one message to the next message. This is something that I see a lot in pipe extrusion, stuff like that. That's where this gets used, and that's why it was added. So very niche feature, but it does come up for those in those specific industries. Again, you cannot use any message with variable data in this feature. It has to be static, not changing information, or if you were printing a line like a solid bar, that would be what you would use as well. So that's the message side of things. I don't think there's anything here that I didn't cover. We'll go ahead and uncheck repeat because we don't want this to be a repeat message. Since we're here in the message, we're just going to go right to insert. Insert is basically all the elements that we use to create our message, right? So another way, instead of doing a right click here and going to one of these elements, I can just go to my insert field or menu tab and select one of my printable elements there. And then of course we've got our lines, and this is what you would use to utilize your continuous line mode. You'd use this to make a line somewhere. So for right now, that's pretty much all there is to message and insert. Your actual, you also have your access to your graphics here too. So your image file we can select from here as well, or from the menu. So that's insert and message, and that should be it for all the variable fields here. See, there's my line that I created. I can elongate that. There we go. I'm just going to go ahead and delete that, get that out of the way. You may have seen that when I select things here that we get a separate tab at the top, properties. So every time you select a element on your screen, you will have a properties tab that populates, and we kind of covered that already in the message creation software. But just so you're aware, anytime I select something, even if I'm in another tab, if I select an element, it's going to populate right to the properties and let me know the actual properties of that element specifically. So that about covers all the menu tabs at the top here. Again, I'm Nick Rodriguez with the Squid Ink service team. I hope you found the video informative. If you need to find more videos similar to the one that you just watched, go ahead and find us on YouTube or elsewhere on the web. Thanks for watching.